You had some pretty good cats around the different territories that were putting it down, like Brickhouse Brown and Iceman King Parsons in World Class Championship Wrestling, and then you had, of course, Rocky Johnson and the great Tony Atlas in the WWE. The Doom was really the first in a while on the national scene to get a lot of recognition as an all-black tag team, and of course, eventually after they left Woman around late 1989 or early 1990. They eventually were managed by former Skyscraper manager Theodore Arlone, who was also a former referee for Jim Crockett Promotions and one of the infamous guys on the WTBS World Championship Wrestling program as the guy who was outside, basically taking all of the equipment and stuff like that from the wrestlers, all of their robes and whatnot, back to the dressing room. He was basically, a busboy, so to speak, for the company, and he worked his way up to the manager. He worked his way up to a referee, then eventually a manager of the team, of different teams, specifically the Skyscrapers, and then transitioned into the manager of the team known as Doom. And that's when their masks were off. People saw their faces, and that's when Doom really began to make a mark in WCW around 1990 when they captured the World Tag Team Championship from the Steiner Brothers at Capital Combat of 1990 in Washington, D.C. A great event overall. The match was superb. The Steiner Brothers just did a tremendous job of making Doom look extremely good, and it gave Doom a lot of credibility. They were plowing through all of the competition in 1990. Eventually they got to the Steiner Brothers. And see, this is how an angle should be done. You build a team up, they're beating all of the competition until they eventually become the number one contenders and they have to face the top team, which were the Steiner Brothers. They take them down, and automatically you have a very credible tag team that people can identify with as, hey, they may not have done it the right way in terms of cheating or whatnot, but the audience was able to see them build as a good tag team over due time, and that's what you had in Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, the natural Butch Reed and Ron Simmons in WCW in 1990, and eventually they would have some good feuds with Barry Windham and Arn Anderson. The Starrcade 90 was originally supposed to be Ric Flair versus Ric Flair and Arn Anderson versus Doom, which was a continuation of their great match at Halloween Havoc of 1990 that I also recommend that you check out. And and that will eventually transition. They had a really good run as tag team champions all the way until Wrestle War 1991 when they lost against the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin. It wasn't the best match in the world, but I know what WCW was doing. This was at a time when Dusty Rhodes came back. He came back to the company from his stint with the WWE, and basically they were going to split the team up. And you had this clash between the two members of Doom and Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, and that eventually culminated in Teddy Long taking Butch Reed's side, and a great and epic match, Thunder Doom cage match at Super Brawl 1991, March 19th, 1991. I remember that date well because I saw the pay-per-view as a 6-year-old in my den, looking at it back and forth. I wish I still had that original copy, but I don't want to get out too much off tangent there. It was a really, really good match. It was about a 15 to 20 minute encounter, and they were basically in a Thunder Doom cage. It was basically a regular cage, and you had Teddy Long suspended in one of those miniature cages that was prevalent in WCW during the late 80s and early 90s. They used it for Jim Cornette, and people like him, as well as some other heel managers during the time. They raised the cage was raised all the way up above the dome, and eventually, to make a long story short, Ron Simmons won, and it was supposed to be a big push for Ron Simmons. WCW, and especially I believe Dusty Rhodes saw big things in Ron. And what you would eventually see is that Ron Simmons getting a huge push during the summer of 1991. He didn't win any championships, but I think that WCW wanted to build him up as somebody that would be a viable competitor. But due to several things happened, his push got accelerated during the fall of 1991, and you saw him in his first major main event push when he faced the total package Lex Luger at Halloween Havoc 1991 Chamber of Horrors for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and it was a 2 out of 3 fall encounter. WCW did a really good job in doing some press conferences. I remember at not Super Bowl, but at Fall Brawl Clash of Champions in September, I believe, in 1991. Can't believe, still remember that. I still even have the video. That's where you had Lex Luger and Ron Simmons at just a mock press conference live at the event, and you had Dusty Rhodes in the corner of Ron Simmons, and then you had Harley Race, and of course the man himself, Mr. Curtis Hughes, as the bodyguard of Lex Luger. And make a long story short, Lex Luger antagonizes Ron Simmons, but it builds Ron Simmons up as a guy you should have a lot of sympathy for, as a guy you should really be behind. And of course WCW did a lot of promotional package videos and stuff like that with him, and head coach of Florida State, Bobby Bowden, and showing all of his old insignia, Florida State insignia, merchandise and whatnot. And it was a really good expose of Ron Simmons' collegiate career, and I think they really wanted to show that this guy's a natural athlete, he has a pedigree of success, and that he is a viable contender to Lex Luger's world title. Now, in my opinion, I think they rushed this way too soon, and a lot of it had to do with Ric Flair not being around. I mean, I understand that Lex Luger was supposed to win the championship anyway, but I think what was supposed to happen after that is you have a guy like a Barry Windham who was eventually going to eventually challenge him for the championship, and that never really happened after Great American Bash 1991, and we all know what kind of problems WCW had with that event. But Ron Simmons lost that match at Halloween Havoc, but he came across as somebody who you knew down in the future. It may be now or it may be later, but Ron Simmons is probably going to get another crack at the world title, and that happened in 1992, shortly after the Great American Bash, when Vader won the title against Sting. And I'm going to pick up there after I show you this pretty cool clip involving Ron Simmons in WCW. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to some of the brief overview of Ron Simmons in WCW. I know I skipped over some tracks, but these were just the major points of emphasis in regards to Ron's career in WCW. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll get back with you in a jit, and enjoy this clip.